of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Racehour podcast in association with Gambling.com and kindly sponsored by BetUK. I'm Darren Hughes and I'm really pleased to be joined this week by the racing equivalent of the A-team, starting as always with Diarmuid Nolan. Are you looking forward to the weekend's action, Dermo, or are you fully in Cheltenham mode at this stage?
No, I actually love this weekend's action. This was a weekend before when old Cape Gentleman went over to Kempton and won and everything else. It's a cracking weekend that always Kempton is anyway. But this card particularly, it's a lovely card. It's again, it's all building up towards the festival, Darren. But it's a weekend definitely worthy of its own merit.
Yeah, for sure. I always find it a great punting weekend. There's usually a couple of races of interest at least, especially from Kempton. I'm also pleased to be joined for the second time on the Racehour podcast by one of Ireland's premier racing journalists, Ronan Groome from the Irish Field. How are you, Ronan?
I'll go, Darren. Yeah, I'll patch you over the €50 for that introduction there. Yeah, looking forward to a good weekend. I was kind of the Eider is one of the races we're going to talk about, and I was kind of daunting, kind of taking it on, but I've come down on a couple there that I like at big prices. So hopefully we can get stuck in. It's a nice opportunity for punting this weekend, I think.
Brilliant stuff. Looking forward to coming back to you on those later on in the show. And lastly, on today's panel, one of the most recognisable faces in racing broadcasting, it's Tanya Stevenson. It's good to have you on, Tanya. This day, 3 weeks, what kind of mood do you think you're going to be in?
Very busy mood because I'll be doing all the stats behind the scenes for one of the broadcasters. So it never really changes. It like everyone else, it's just massive anticipation, and you never have the right stats ready. And that's what these podcasts are all about. It's trying to find potentially what the eventualities will be. And I love this weekend. I really do love this weekend. The sort of contrast of Newcastle and indeed the contrast with Kempton, a speed track.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of positivity on the panel this week for this weekend's racing, which is great to see. But we are going to take a temporary pause on the weekend and turn our attention momentarily to the Grand National weights, which came out this week. Tanya, I'm going to stick with you. Hewitt was top weight, probably a surprise to nobody. Gordon Elliott expected to run 8 or 10. What were your initial thoughts on the weights coming out?
I scanned down initially, and my first thing to do was scan down to see what Correct Rambler got. Just as many would have scanned down to see what Vanillier had got. The top weight, as you said, was hardly surprising, and it was good to see that there was, I felt no negativity for the weights that were allotted to all the horses. What was, for me, is strange is this the Grand National as we know it? It's not really. It's been tinkered so many times. What is this race? I mean, to me, I remember having stood up as a bookmaker in pitch 22 at Aintree itself, and this is just a shadow of its former self, but we've got to celebrate it for what it is, and we can pull out, we can enjoy. We've got Noble Yates, a previous winner in the race. We've got Correct Rambler, previous winner in the race, but the horse that I just wanted to see how much it would carry was Galvin. I watched the Boyne hurdle and watch Galvin run, and I thought, right, okay, because many people were thinking, let's see for the cross country, but for me it was for Aintree, and very, very happy with what Galvin got allotted. Also very happy with 11-2 for Correct Rambler. It just promises to be a race, for all its tinkering and adjustments. It now is a race of class. Anything below a rating, as the handicapper said, of 144 is unlikely to get in. That just shows you how classy this contest is, and to see that the King George winner is top weights, it's just fantastic, isn't it? And many of them, even Nassalam, quite sensibly, I feel, as the Welsh Grand National winner, is not going to Cheltenham. It's going to go straight to Aintree, and it's more of its kind of rhythmic race. You need a horse that gets into a rhythm or races up with the pace. Ironically saying that, considering who won it last year in Correct Rambler. There's many people focusing on Mile a Mission, but I worry that it hasn't run this year. That would be the big negative. Mind you, John McConnell certainly coming flying back into form. But at this stage, I was a Gallia de la Toe until that really disappointing run recently. I'm now minded more to focusing on Galvin, because I just thought that was a brilliant run over hurdles recently.
Very fair comments. Yeah, Gallia Galia Delato, Harry Skelton's charger, Dan Skelton's charger, I should say, probably one of those who's sweating for ever so slightly about getting into the race. Should be okay, but far from guaranteed at this point. Dermot, I'll come to you next. Vanilla in as favourite 9-1, given a good mention there by Tanya. Obviously, the ride he got from Sean Flanagan last year came under some criticism. I think it was Sean Flanagan. But he's been inserted as favourite this year at 9-1, ahead of Cork Rambler at 12s. What were your thoughts on him, I suppose, and the race overall as it stands?
Yeah, you can't have much issue with his weight or anything else. Yeah, look, it was a poor ride probably, but he was riding for luck as you would on a horse of his price last season. You know, I mean, I know Sean Flanagan was staying on late, but to me, Cork Rambler went through the race so easily that I don't know, had Vanillier got there earlier, would he have got by him anyway? I think Cork Rambler just had that race sewn up by the time that Vanillier was kind of running on. Sometimes things are written in the stars, and the way Cork Rambler went through that race and kicked on last year under Derek Fox wasn't that of a horse who was going to be caught anyway. I don't really like horses coming back to win it a second time, having not done it the first time. I'm just not big in them at all. In my mind, in this race, forgetting the likes of Tiger Roll, you kind of get one smack at it, and you either do it or you don't. And if you don't do it, it probably won't fall for you the next year. A genius like Gavin Cromwell, of course, he can get this horse fit and ready. I also wouldn't be shocked to see the likes of Connor Stone Walsh ride him on the day and take another few pounds off, £5 I think he is now. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Connor Stone Walsh has had both a brilliant season and a very unlucky one. He's had 2 handicaps now at his absolute mercy in Melina's Girl and Percival Legwai, who I definitely made a bollocks of that anyway. But Legalwal. But yeah, so there. But at the front of the market, I like Malheur Mission. John McConnell's had an awful season, but that's been because they had that sickness in the yard. All the horses were kind of pulling up stumps with the bug there, but they have been turning that around. But one horse who I can't quite believe is still 33-1 is the 147 rated Meeting of the Waters. Needs a few horses to come out, but that win in that Paddy Power Chase at Christmas was absolutely out of this world easy. DRF came down at the first one hampered. Can't criticize him too much there. I do like to have age on side with this, so he is only 7, but the way he won at Christmas time was of a very, very good horse. I think they have tied with the idea of like a National Hunt Chase with him, but 10 stone 4 here, Darren, for Meeting of the Waters, who obviously needs a few to come out, but I think he could just squeeze in. 33-1 does look a very big price for a horse that's been in a massive handicap already and won. But the one thing I would like to echo as well before I pass this back to you finally is Tanya's right though. This isn't what the Grand National was at all. It's like our version of the American Grand National or something. It's a glorified hurdle race now with the way the fences are, and now there's kind of 34 runners. The next move will be 28, will it? And we just keep ebbing and ebbing away at horse racing, when at some point we do have to stick our chest out and our shoulders up and say we are what we are. You know, like us or lump us. Like us or lump it even. It is disappointing, but look, the race is there. Meeting of the Waters. If he gets in, Darren, I could see him going off shorter now than that price anyway.
Yeah, a lot of points I could touch on there from what you said, Dermot, but I'm inclined to agree. I think we probably do need to take a stand of sorts and just say, look, the race is what it is. It's definitely not what it was. Meeting of the Waters particularly interesting at his price. He looks to take perhaps the Cork Rambler route, win the Ultima, go to entry very, very well in, potentially, if that's the route he takes, and it could be well punted on the day, provided he gets in off a very, very low weight, and Patrick is unlikely to be riding him at that particular weight. Ronan, last but certainly not least, the Grand National weights. From an Irish perspective, I suppose we've got a stranglehold on the market, you can almost say, with Vanillier, Malheur Mission, Noble Yates, Panda Boy, even Galvin, I Maximus. I could go on, but you know, the majority of the horses at the front of the market are trained in Ireland. Do you think the Grand National will be coming back this way, the Irish Sea again?
No, I'd say it's long odds on, Darren. Like I did just went through all the Irish horses' weights, and it's looking likely that the handicap, I reckon, a mark of 145 will just about get you in. I'd say he's probably been a bit that could be a bit optimistic for those rated 145. But if you took that, there was 57 horses within that kind of frame, and 75% of them are Irish. So it's a whole new Grand National in all sorts of ways. But obviously, that's significant as well, the Irish influence now, and just goes to show you where the power lies. It's just another kind of parameter where the power lies. The couple I liked actually were the ones that Gordon Elliott mentioned, and Tanya's given good mention to Galvin already. Like, he is so interesting. He handicapped. He's 8 pounds below his Irish mark. This is the handicap we're kind of taking, treating the Grand National or the cross country fences as actual, proper races. And obviously we know Gordon likes to kind of soft train his horses for those races earlier. I was listening to you guys on Tuesday and was kind of half surprised no one kind of took him as a flyer for the cross country. I thought his run in the Boyne Hurdle was very interesting last time. We know the cross country obviously is a nice prep run for horses taking on the Grand National. So very interested in him. He's 11 pounds lower than last year when he didn't get very far. And Chemical Entry, who I mentioned on the podcast previously, just when the entries came out for the National with Stephen and Diarmuid, I think he's really interesting, lads. He's I go back to the National Hunt Chase last year. It kind of reminded me a lot of, do you remember when Back in Focus won the National Hunt that year and kind of nailed Tofino Bay, but Tofino Bay was a faller at the last and he just needed someone to guide him. And it was kind of the same that day, Mallar Mission fell when Chemical Energy was chasing him. He kind of just got lonely then, and then came Patrick on Galia Dermail. That race has worked out really well. You look at Galia Dermail went on third into the Grand National that year. Mallar Missions went second in the Coral Gold Cup, and even Mr. Coffee was third that day. He jumped the last alongside Cork Rambler in the Grand National. So he's around 25 to 1 mark. Chemical Energy now, he was 40 to 1, kind of freely available to come. I still think that's a bet. And Galvin, absolutely. I think he could go up close to favourite. He could be well in by the time the race comes, like officially, if he runs well in the cross country. So I think Gordon's got a good chance this year with those two.
Gordon Elliott benefit the Grand National as it has been more than once in the last decade or so. I think his first ever, not his first ever, but I think it was his fourth ever winner was actually the Grand National with Silver Birch all those years ago. He's covered
his first winner in the year. His first, he won the Grand National before he trained a winner in Ireland.
In Ireland, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, he had the winner in Ireland. He had 3 winners up in Scotland, and I think his first winner in England would have been Silver Birch. So he's covered an awful lot of ground between now and then. Again, before we go on to the weekend, just a quick line from Michi. Cheltenham Festival handicap entries come out this week. I'm going to just ask for one horse, Michi, that got a bit of it, that grabbed your attention.
I'll go first. So Darren, Shake 'em Up.
Dermot, sorry, yeah.
I think is symbolic of the fact that I think the handicapper has rightfully taken the view that maybe the English races at the moment aren't as strong as the Irish, because that was a career best from him over course and distance in January, and he only got £3 for it. It's a very, very lenient handicapping, so he'll run there off 143. And since Ben Pauling has moved to this new yard 20 minutes down the road from Cheltenham, he can't seem to train a loser. The absolutely flying. So I do think that Shake 'em Up Harry should be taken very seriously there in the plate on the Thursday there.
Shake 'em Up Harry for Diarmuid Nolan. Ronan, I'll come to you next. One horse in the Cheltenham Festival handicap entries that caught your eye.
Waterford Whispers, Darren, in the Martin Pipe. It's his only entry. I'll just have it. It's been a massive eye catcher a few times he's run this season. Finished off really strongly at Fairy House the second last run. He beat a horse called Answer the Cave there, who's done that for him no harm since. And then he was beaten the last day at Leopardstown, but that was a really slowly run race. They finished off kind of 110% kind of late on there. It didn't really suit him. He's been kept back for this. I know everyone will look to Sat Majest, seems to be the top horse, but he actually has an entry in the Coral Cup as well, so they could split him up. Whatever way it is, I think this Waterford Whispers is very interesting handicapped. I think he'll get about 4 or 5 onto his 129 here, and definitely keep an eye on him in the Martin Pipe.
Very good. It's Waterford Whispers there for Ronan Groome. And Tanya, one horse in the Cheltenham handicap entries that got your attention during the week.
I was hoping that Theatre Man would turn up in a handicap because there was always that doubt that he might not. He ran such a great race behind Ginny's Destiny, and much of the focus, quite rightly, was on Ginny's Destiny. But this is a horse trained by Richard Bandy who's not had the best of years, but he's had one of those really frustrating years where he's had some really good placed horses and some big handicaps. Go for it, Richard, with Theatre Man. Harry Bannister will be aboard. The horse will be ridden positively. He's got a couple of entries. I hope he runs on Tuesday in the Ultima. He will be one of those annoying horses. If you're trying to finish really strongly, he will keep his head down and keep giving. And it's often a race that throws up something for the in running punters, doesn't it? But Theatre Man, he's probably going to be Richard's only entry at the festival, but it runs such a brilliant trial at Cheltenham at the last meeting. That's for me, that's in the Ultima.
Man for Tanya. Me personally, I'm excited to see Apple away. I know she's probably been a little bit disappointed in conditions races, but she'd have to be of interest off the mark in the high 130s in a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. I think if she can just get things together. As I said, probably a little bit underwhelming so far, but I do still suspect there's a big pot in her. We'll move on now to the weekend preview itself. And Tanya, I'm going to come back to you to kick us off. It's the 1:15 at Kempton, a 2.5 mile handicap hurdle, or 2 mile 5 furlongs handicap hurdle, I should say. No prices from our sponsors BetUK here as yet, or at least there wasn't when I checked about half an hour ago. But Largy Poet does head the market at a general 9-2. Joker Demai, Pentland Hills next in. And I should say that BetUK are offering an extra place on this race. Did you manage to get a selection from what is a tricky puzzle?
It is a tricky puzzle, and I'm glad there's an extra place because you've got kind of established handicap hurdlers, and you've got something like Largy Poet, who ran really green at Chepstow or behind Manila Blue Way, and then subsequently came out and ran, I thought, even more green, even more inexperienced at Exeter when, because he was so comfortably out in front, he was wandering out in front. I just think there's a little bit more to come. You then have to take the Lanzarote hurdle, meaning this in the fact that Pentland Hills, last time we saw Pentland Hills, was finishing behind a horse called Serious Operator. Now, Pentland Hills will carry a lot of weight in this 1:15. He's a previous Triumph hurdle winner, so he's a double grades 1 winner. But Serious Operator then ran brilliant 5th in the Lanzarote. Why is this relevant? Well, also in that race was 10th Samuel Spade. He lines up in this 1:15. The faller was last year's winner, Mark of Gold, and also is up for parole, who led the Lanzarote for a long, long way. So it gives you kind of a context of how this race will be run. Potentially up for parole will lead, but also in the Lanzarote, second Nemean Lion, who's come out and won a Kingwell, and Mott Hill was 8th. So it's a very, very strong handicap hurdle to take some form from. Do you go for anything out of the Lanzarote? There's a big question. Well, I've stepped away from all of that because I think there'll be a fast pace set. And I think I'm going to go with Sea Invasion for Chris Gordon. This was a good run last time on Boxing Day by Caught in the Act, won the race. Second was 135 Not Out, who's come out and won since for Paul Nicholls, I think won at Wincanton. And then third was Moonchime, who's also come out and won since, and that won at Huntingdon. Fourth was Sea Invasion, and Moonchime at a crucial moment came and swerved in front of Sea Invasion to get a proper view of the hurdle. There was no intention mean. It was just the horse trying to get a proper view. It stopped Sea Invasion in the tracks. For me, Sea Invasion is a speed horse, and this is what you need at Kempton when we get onto the Adonis, which we've got some, I think it's the best Adonis we've seen for ages. You just need a speed horse, and Sea Invasion, suddenly after the last hurdle, had this injection of acceleration. I think there's more manoeuvrability to come, and Chris Gordon does really well in handicap hurdles. So despite all I say, I think Largy Poet might be a bit too green still. Pentland Hills will have too much weight, and Up for Parole might go off too fast. It'll bring Sea Invasion through.
I like you race Sea Invasion for Tanya Stevenson off a very raceable weight. Rex Dingle in the plate. There's not too many jockeys in the UK you'd want in a big handicap hurdle over Rex Dingle at the moment. So a lovely selection there from Tanya. Ronan, I'll come on to you next. Do you have anything as confident as Tanya's selection, or how did you find this race?
I'm as confident as Tanya because I like Sea Invasion as well, so I'm not going to take up too much time for all the reasons she's just pointed out. I mean, just another reason as well is Chris Gordon's in good form. He's had 4 winners the last 2 weeks, 4 from 10. He likes to target this meet, and he's won this race 2 years ago with St. Dennis, and he's had 2 winners, I think, at the Dovecote in the last 3 years. I thought he was quite tenderly handled the last day. If you want to go back and watch that by Bryony Frost, just got going just after the last, but she wasn't really busy, we put it that way, I suppose. And maybe this was a day that they were looking at coming up on a trip. As he said, completely unexposed. Double figures. I'd say you get a double figure price with each way terms. I think it's a good bet. I was half looking at No Ordinary Joe. I think he's quite interestingly handicapped off the back of the second Morocco at Cheltenham last year. But I wonder, just as Cheltenham in the back of their minds again, he's got a couple of entries there this week. So obviously the betting market would be a good guide to him. So happy to take Sea Invasion here for the Chris Gordon team.
Sea Invasion also for Ronan Groome. That's 2 for 2. I think you're correct in your synopsis of No Ordinary Joe. I'd say Cheltenham is definitely on the agenda for that particular JP charge. And Diarmuid Nolan to finish us out. Will it be 3 for 3 for Sea Invasion, or how did you come down?
Yeah. I can't possibly add anything there to the brilliance of Tanya, and then followed up beautifully by Ronan. So no, absolutely nothing to add. I'm a big fan of Sea Invasion for this race as well. Chris Gordon's a trainer that I do like at this meeting. So, literally, Sea Invasion, well, quite a decent price, Darren, for us all to be behind, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Geez, to start us off, that's a lovely way to start off the podcast. I'm going to stick with you, Dermo, for the 150 at Kempton. It's the Adonis Hurdle. Used to be a premier Triumph Hurdle trial. Unlikely to happen this year. Khalif de Burley, 10 to 11. Give me 5, 4 to 1. Peaking up to 6s. What way did you see it going?
This is a cracking race. I have no betting tip at all on this. I just can't wait to watch it all the way down to Swift Hawk there. They're all exceptionally decent horses, and they've shown quite a bit so far. Pekin Opera didn't look like he was enjoying it all that much, but he still got the job done last time. Captain Marvelous looked very decent, giving me 5. Very good as well, symbolic of how well Harry Durham was taking the training, and then obviously the favourite Khalif de Burley, who could be anything. This is a brilliant race, one that I'll enjoy watching, Darren, but not one that I'll be getting too heavily involved in.
No bet for Diarmuid Nolan. Same thing for you, Ronan Groome. I must admit, I'm quite surprised there's such a price differential between Khalif de Burley for all his brilliance the last day, and give me 5 for Harry Durham, who I thought was exceptional last time out also.
Yeah, I guess they're just looking at the Gimme 5 form last day maybe suggest that race wasn't much, but I don't think Khalif de Burley did much at Kempton form-wise either. He jumped to his left as well. I thought he was a bit short. Generally, juvenile hurdle kind of form, especially the British juvenile hurdles, I tend to, stay away from betting-wise. But this is quite interesting. It just goes to show you, Gimme 5 was the 60, 69 on the flat here for Johnny Murtagh, Peking Opera. 100 rated for Aidan O'Brien. Yet you go long odds on. Gimme 5 will be well ahead of Peking Opera here. If the betting is anything to go by at the moment, it's just interesting the way the form translates. Gun to head, Darren, I go with Gimme 5. I just think Khalif de Burley is a big chaser in the making. Apparently, he goes chasing straight away next year. Paul Nichols is already talking about him as a future top class staying chaser, and he might just get outspeeded here in a better race than what he faced the first time at Kempton, and just the left-handed jumping would concern me if you were wanting to take the odds on there.
Yeah, it's fair comments. I might suggest that Paul Nichols has quite a few supposed future Gold Cup horses in his yard that aren't running at Cheltenham this year. Caldwell Potter being another one. I think there might be 1 or 2 more he's talked about in that same vein, but we'll leave that where it is for now. And Tanya, last but not least, yourself on the Adonis Hurdle, please.
I think Peking Opera will be suited by going to Kempton. Sandown didn't suit and accentuate all Peking Opera's speed, and he did do it well. Swift Hawk is a nice little battler, and Swift Hawk travelled well to beat a horse called Orchestra last time, which is key when we balance up Give Me 5, because Give Me 5, whereas Swift Hawk beat Orchestra 5 lengths, Give Me 5 beat it 18. And I think they, when Give Me 5 went to Warwick, they thought it was going to come back to it. Or he might have faded, but he seemed to go further and further clear. And you could see the expression on Harry Durham's face when they took the microphone to him to interview him afterwards. And his immediate reaction was, well, that poses a problem. He was thinking boodles, boodles, boodles. And now he said, I have to make a Triumph Hurdle entry. And then he said, the automatic thing is to go to the Adonis. So here we are, Give Me 5 in the Adonis. I haven't mentioned Captain Marvelous, who won well, that one really well. Khalif de Burley, I totally agree, looks a chaser, and Adonis hurdles are generally won by very, very speedy kind of flat hurdlers, whereas Khalif de Burley looks as though it's going to be something exceptional, but over the bigger obstacles, and he may be caught out by the speed of all the others. But he is an exceptional horse, I don't doubt that. It's really frustrating for Gary Moore. He's had 5 seconds in this race, but never won it. So he'll be pleased he's taking Peking Opera to one of his favourite races. Paul Nicholls has won it 5 times, but I've got to go with Give Me 5. I'm surprised not more has been made of who owns Give Me 5, and they may well be there. It's been touted that Graham McDowell and all the golfers that are involved, including Brooks Koepka, will be at Kempton. That will be fantastic for the sport if they are at Kempton. And if that's the case, it's the sort of horse that we want to get behind. He does look exceptional. If he repeats that Warwick run, it should put him, I can't believe that, as already been said, the disparity between the prices of Caliph de Burley and Give Me 5. But let's hope all the entourage around it do turn up at Kempton, because it will certainly make a great story.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tanya, and I think those particular gentlemen have the capability to cause something of a market plunge. So perhaps if you do, they have deep pockets anyway, if nothing else. If you do fancy Give Me 5, now might be the time to get involved with that particular horse. We move up north now to Newcastle for the Eider Chase. And Ronan, Groome, I'm going to come to you because you flagged at the very start of this podcast, you had multiple selections in this race at multiple fancy prices. Anglers Craig heads to market for local boy Brian Ellison, looking for his first win in the race. But take the floor, Ronan, and show us what you've got.
Yeah, as I said, it's some people look at these races and it's not for the faint-hearted. It's 4 miles, 4 miles and furlong, extended 4 miles and 1 furlong around Newcastle, heavy ground. It's going to find a lot of these out. I just tend to take on. I think the horses here at the top of the market, they're lightly raced, to kind of coming in here with a few ones to the name. I'm not sure that's exactly what you need. I'm a big believer in trends. I look at trends all the time, and I know some people can't have them, but you have to interpret them properly. And one trend I was found interesting, I'm just reading the OLBG website on this, was you'd be on level stakes profit of €37.50 if you backed horses that have been pulled up on their at one stage this year going into this race. Now, obviously, that's not a positive. That's not what you're looking for, but it just goes to show you that these horses can get underrated that are pulled up in these marathon chases. So 2 of the ones that I found were Major Dundee, is probably in and around the 14-1 mark, and Flower of Scotland, who I think has come in for a bit of sport since I was looking at it earlier in the weekend, obviously since declarations this morning. Flower of Scotland's really interesting. So she was pulled up on her only run this season, but she's been freshened up since that from Sandy Thompson, whose horses are actually in great form. And if you go back to her form last season, she won over Kelso at 4 miles. Pretty smart form there. Like she did that really well. That was on soft ground. They were training her for a Scottish national. Gave her a little run and back at Kelso in a handicap hurdle. She ran really well third. I think she would have been well fancied. And then the ground just went for her. I have a feeling now that they've worked back from this race, knowing that they're going to get soft ground here. She's still relatively unexposed, only 12 starts, and definitely unexposed over the trip, as they all are. But she's at least proven it. And I wouldn't mind the pulled up. I think Sandy Thompson's horses are in much better form now. Major Dundee for the Alan King team, obviously coming back into a bit of form as well. He's really interesting off the back of some of his good runs last season. Like, he was nice and progressive. He was third in the Scottish National to Win My Wings a couple of seasons ago as well. Again, pulled up last time, but he's just got that form over further, like the Midlands National last season. Handle soft ground as well. So it's a case of just being forgiving of that. These long distance chases, sometimes if horses just aren't going, they're not going to finish out the race and they get saved for another day. And I think that could be the case with the 2 of these. And I'd rather back the kind of proven form over the distance rather than the kind of unexposed, sexy profile horses coming into the race.
It's 2 there. I like that logic, Ron, and I have to say, yeah, maybe the P symbol isn't necessarily as big a negative over these trips as it might be over some of the more traditional or conventional trips, I should say. So that's Flower of Scotland and Major Dundee, 7-1 and 10-1 respectively, with our sponsors BetUK, who I should also add are an extra place on this race. Also, Diarmuid Nolan, the Eider Chase at Newcastle. Do you have a selection for us?
Yeah, I really like the Galloping Bear here. Second in this race last year off this very mark, but this Saturday, Joe Anderson takes £5 off, and he's very good, Darren. He's been riding really, really well this season. There's a few exciting young claimers actually in the UK at the moment, and he's one of them, definitely. Himself, Freddie Gingell, and Chris Gordon's son as well. Freddie Gordon, isn't it? They all look excellent. For me, Bodo's runs this season have been nothing more than sighters. He's been very simply, in my opinion, getting himself ready for this race. Second last year, just bumped into a very well handicapped horse. And if he can reproduce that effort off effectively £5 lower, I think he should be going very close here then.
The Galloping Bear for Diarmuid Nolan, obviously course form, race form, everything else form. Does look a lot of weight around, but hasn't proven any impediment to him in the past. And Tanya, the Eider Chase, do you have the winner of the race for us, please?
I hope so. Generally, it had been a favourite drought from 2012 until Winning My Wings won in 2022, and then of course last year Kitty's Light. This year I want to oppose the favourites, like Ronan says. It's well worth opposing those towards the top of the market. The Galloping Bear, I agree, certainly in the fact that we haven't seen Galloping Bear run to the best effect. He likes front running. Send him out in front. Let them play catch me if you can. And Joe Anderson's going to take, as we've already mentioned, going to take a nice lot of weight off of him as well. He's a huge asset, Joe. He won on Mott Hill. He hung on grimly on Transmission at Plumpton. He's been in the headlines, and he'll be the ideal partner here for the Galloping Bear. And it will make it a true test of stamina, because he's got no Kitty's Light in this race. However, as been mentioned as well, he has got a Major Dundee who does stay very well. Major Dundee, I'm not too phased about the pulling up. I totally agree, and I'm glad the stats certainly prove that it isn't the be all and end all if you pulled up in this season. Major Dundee does stay. He's won a Midlands National, and if there is something to tag on to the Galloping Bear, it will be Major Dundee. Alan King, as we've just said, he's certainly come into form over in jumps. He's been in form on the flat. His dual purpose license he's thriving with, and there were the two that I'd take against those at the top of the market, who I think, despite their in form, they don't come into the race with such powerful wins on their CVs as the Galloping Bear and Major Dundee do. They're sort of hardy characters that can deal with the tough conditions that Newcastle will present, and they'll just keep going.
Two prices there for Tanya. Also, I think the Galloping Bear and Major Dundee given strong mentions by Tanya. So we're all against the favourite in the Eider Chase, but with good logic behind it. Tanya, I am going to stick with you for the 2:27 from Kempton. It's the Pendle Novices Chase over 2.5 miles. I think Nickelback was in this race for the Sarah Humphreys Yard, but has been taken out, unless I've missed something, and that leaves Lepatron replacing his vanquisher at the head of the market at 11-4. I must say I'm quite surprised Tamoris isn't the outright favourite here. He's as big as 4-1 in a place, but 10-3 with our sponsors. You sound like you agree.
Yeah, this is a very tricky race to fathom. It would been lovely if Nickelback had a run, but I fully understand it's best that they wait for Aintree, or indeed if they go to Air, but certainly go to Aintree. It was only, I think, on a whim, but yes, Nickelback was entered. I just think he'd have gone, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have seen him around Kempton. You've got to decide. You've got grade 1 form with Le Patron, who ran really, really well to win that grade 1 in the Henry VIII, and then found the better ground a little bit tricky. Do you then go with Arclight? Now, a mare has won it. I've been digging out to see whether a mare had won it, and it was Makunji in 1999. She was the last one to win the Pendle, so from the same stable, which is interesting. So Nicky's probably thinking that at the back of his mind. I've won this before with a mare and Arclight. She's going to get a nice weight from the boys. It worries me Pembroke. Pembroke has had a walkover. All his rivals have fallen. And then when he did have rivals, and I don't think the Dan Skelton team yet are at full pelt. Le Patron, I'd be worried about the defeat last time. Blow Your Wad has already been beaten, I think, by Timouris in the Tolworth when it was run at Sandown. So now we go full circle, bound back to Timouris in a race that Paul Nicholls has won 13 times. 13 times. So you can see Timouris is a Grade 1 winner over hurdles. He's got speed. I just think he was unlucky at Exeter in what was a fantastic, one of the best 3-runner races you'll see. He found himself in front, and John Joe O'Neill Jr. rode a brilliant race, just sat in behind in this 3-runner race and let the 2 up front, and then he just stole it on the line. This will be run in a totally different tempo. It'll be run to suit Timouris. I don't think Exeter was a speed track, where Timouris is a speed horse, and as you say, this could be win number 14. I totally agree. In the Pendle Novices Chase, it looked to me as a tricky conundrum to work out, and I've opted for a bigger price yet. The normal formula for the race, Paul Nicholls in the Pendle.
Yeah, couldn't be in any firmer agreement with you there, Tanya. I thought he was robbed the last day. Great ride by John Joe O'Neill, but I think he did a fair dose of the donkey work, and nothing against Harry Cobden. I don't think he put a foot wrong, but hopefully he can put that right this weekend. And Ronan, I'm going to come to you next for the Pendle Novices Chase from Kempton. Do you have a selection for us?
I do have a selection. I'm going to just check in with you though, Darren. Do you have a price with the good sponsors for Blow Your Wad there? What they priced him up?
Yeah, I do indeed. Give me one quick second.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, you're fine. He's 3-1 outright favourite. So our sponsors are kind of ducking Timouris, who is as big as 4-1 in the place. They're 10-3 about him, and they, interestingly enough, have Blow Your Wad is 3-1 favourite here, whereas Le Patron is 5 in other places.
Yeah, so I tend to agree with that sort of assessment. I quite like Blow Your Wad here. Willing to forgive the run the last day at Cheltenham. I don't think he was going ever travelling really there, but go back to his run here over Christmas. He won that handicap chase on St. Stephen's Day. That's often a useful event. He did it. He clocked a good time there. He was actually quite smart. And like if you go back to his run against Le Patron beat him 10 lengths earlier this season at Sandown. There's a 17-pound weight swing there since that run, and Blow Your Wad has improved. And Le Patron, I guess, I know Blow Your Wad, we have to forgive his last run. Le Patron was quite poor the last day as well, has come back from that. I do respect Timouris absolutely, and Paul Nicholls' record on the race. Of course, you have to respect that. It's a tight little contest, isn't it? Pembroke is interesting as well, for all that he actually literally hasn't beaten a runner over fences yet, which is mad considering he actually has 2 wins to his name. So, and Arclight as well. She's waited. It seems like it's a step up in class, but she's waited to be in and around him there when you consider that she has the allowance as well. But Blow Your Wad, I thought, was the rightful favourite, and get a vote from me.
Blow Your Wad for Ronan Groome in the Pendle Novices Chase at the weekend. A slight diversion from myself and Tanya. And Dermo, last but certainly not least, do you have a selection for us?
Yeah, I love Arclight here. Really love her. Went through last night. Marsh Wren was obviously running today for Stuart Edmonds, which was a brave call to come over. Marsh Wren is literally just after winning that race there at Turles. And the reason why I stumbled onto Arclight was I was just watching back a few replays last night. Like, Arclight beat her by 2 lengths, but really could have won by as far as she wanted really that day. Arclight absolutely hammered her. This mare is she was only rated like 118 over hurdles, but my God, she's way better over fences. She has been faultless so far. I love when Nikki tilts like a mare at a race like this. Kind of means that they're proper ones. And she's weighted, as Ronan said earlier, to strike here. And 10 stone 10 carrying here, and 4-1 with BetUK. This is a cracking little race, but I really like her, and I think all the male horses here are going to really struggle to give her weight.
Struggle to give weight to the good mare. It's a tale as old as time, especially in these novice chases. So Diarmuid Nolan will be keeping his fingers crossed that Arclight can do the business for Nicky Henderson at the weekend. We'll stick with you, Dermo, for the 3 o'clock from Kempton. It's the Dovecote Novices Hurdle. It's a weak enough Grade 2. I think that's a fair comment. In truth, Jericho Derepine Victim Lump Sum is heading the market at around 13-8 here with our sponsors. Looks impossibly short to me. I like the look of Secret Square at about 11-2 with BetUK. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that horse as well. The first three are basically all advertising here for Jericho de Repine. Obviously, Lump Sum and Fiercely Proud last time were second, third. But there's only half a length of a difference in completely just the poorhouse. But Secret Swirl was 1 3/4 length behind Jericho de Repine and shaped a bit better, in my opinion, than Lump Sum. Last time also shaped very well, travelled really well into that race. But there's not a whole lot of difference considering the price difference here, Darren. Secret Swirl was good. And last time I'd forgive him, David Bass really tried to force him home. I thought it was over the top. Now I think David Bass does do that quite a bit, but really went over the top trying to force this horse home. Johnny Burke's going to suit this horse brilliantly. Obviously, Johnny Burke, not just Johnny Burke's just having a great season. His move over to the UK has really paid off for him there. So at the odds, the race is deeper than that, by the way, as well. The Alan King and Paul Nichols horses here are far from out of it, but we're basically looking at Jericho de Repine form, and there's not as much of a difference between what Secret Squirrel did and what Lump Sum did for the price to be as different as it is there.
Yeah, that was largely my analysis as well. I also thought Johnny Burke was a massive jockey upgrade, especially considering the way Secret Squirrel is ridden. David Bass is grand and one that likes to, have lots of use made out of them, I think. But for Secret Squirrel, I think someone like Johnny Burke's off pair of hands will suit that little bit better. Tanya, I'm going to come to you for a selection, please, in the Dove Cut.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Secret Squirrel fan club. I think always that Hughie Morrison is underrated when he has his jumped horses. He's had brilliant ones since the days of Frenchman's Creek. He had Tom Paddington over hurdles. He's had obviously Not So Sleepy. He's just has the odd one here and then, and always underrated. And Secret Squirrel sort of catches the eye with his beautiful mane and tail. But it's a case of, we've already mentioned, who do you think ran best to annoyed Jericho de Repine the most? And out of Lump Sum and Fiercely Proud, I'm more inclined to think Fiercely Proud out of those two, because he was perhaps made too much use of. And when he come to the final hurdle, Jericho de Repine sort of eyeballed him and had him beat. However, Secret Squirrel, I felt, wasn't really put into the race against Jericho de Repine until after the last. And the realisation was, oh, hold on a minute, I've got lots more in the tank. And he accelerated and reduced the gap to Jericho de Repine. And I think it may have left a few if-onlys at Newbury with Secret Squirrel. Back to Kempton, and this will play to Secret Squirrel's strengths. He loves Kempton. He's a speed horse. That's what he's all about. And with Johnny Burke on board, I felt so sorry for him when he was just beaten by Fireflyer. But back here at Kempton, this is just a huge asset for him. I get that there's lots of other good horses in the race, Panjari, who won the Scottish Supreme, but I don't think they can come into the race with that level of acceleration that I have witnessed at Newbury after that last hurdle to close down Jericho de Repine. I think that's what I'm resting on, and the fact that Hughie is so good with his jumps horses.
Yeah, agreed with all of the above. I do look at him though, and I do think to myself, Jesus, he'd be some good thing off mark of 126 in a decent handicap hurdle if he could go down that route. But not a bad pot here, £34,000 to the winner if they can make it work. And Ronan, I'm going to finish up with you, please, for the Dove Cut from Kempton. Do you have a selection for us?
Yeah, wanting to take on Lump Sum. I think he's quite short, could tighten the market. Like the general chatter after that last race with Fiercely Proud and Jericho de Repine was that he was kind of the penny dropped late on. I'm not sure. I think Tom Cannon, if he could have it back, might have sent him forward a bit sooner. And look, I think he's been priced quite defensively all week, and you might see him drift out now. That the decks come in and the betting starts from tomorrow onwards. But to respect Secret Squirrel, absolutely. But Panjari was the one I thought was interesting. Now he won the Scottish Supreme Novice Hurdle. Now, don't mind that grandstanding name of a race. It wasn't much of a contest at all. There'd be maiden hurdles in Ireland that are better than the form of that contest. But he did it quite well. First time cheek pieces. things just clicked for him that day. He was obviously much better than he was on his penultimate start at Musselburgh in a handicap hurdle. And if you go back before that, he was third to Go Dante in a good handicap hurdle at Cheltenham. And Dottie the Great was just ahead of him that day, and obviously he's done well since that race. The form in that contest worked all right. That was only his fourth start over hurdles. He's got plenty of experience, but as I said, I just think things might have clicked for him the last day, and it's already been stated already. Paul Nicholls on this card might just be a card that he targets just pre-Cheltenham, or that others don't. And yeah, I liked him here. I thought he's overpriced at 7-1.
Very interesting there, Ronan. So a couple of horses given a decent mention there by Ronan, but I think the general consensus is we're all against the favourite lump sum in this particular contest. Ronan, I'm going to stick with you for our last contest of the day, or certainly our last ITV contest of the day. It's the Kempton Coral Trophy, 3 miles around Kempton at 3:37. And just before you start, I'm going to get up my soapbox here ever so slightly and demand to know why there are only 12 runners in this race. It's a £150,000 handicap. There's more money for this than for the Ultimate at the Cheltenham Festival. Like, UK trainers win about prize money week in, week out, and here's a perfectly viable opportunity to take home a really, really nice pot for, you know, a relatively uncompetitive race. My last question to you then is, can Phlegmatic justify favouritism here? But what are your thoughts on the race as it stands?
Well, I'll echo what you said, Darren, but it's madness really when you think about it. And you think about the years gone by when the Betfair hurdle used to not fill out, and the county had to be like literally 60 million entries for the county hurdle, and people would take their chance of even getting into the race rather than running in a race that was actually more expensive. But that's for another day, I suppose. I do like Phlegmatic. I think he's rock solid. I guess the only thing holding his price up now is the soft ground. But there isn't actually that much rain between now and Saturday, and I wonder if it got good to soft, would that just be fine for him? Like, his claims are rock solid. He's obviously a course and distance winner, like he's multiple course and distance winner. Won the last day, you know, that's good form. And was second in the race Hour Power last year. I'm not sure this is as good as it was last year. Like 5-1, you could definitely make a case for that. I'm just slightly worried at the time of writing or at the time of speaking, even that the soft ground might just catch him out. The one in that case, if it came up good soft with back Phlegmatic, no problem at around the 5-1 mark. But if it came up soft, Lord Baddesley is the one I'd be interested in. Always kind of followed this horse. He's one of those kind of cliff type of horses, but he put it together the last day. First start over, the longest trip he's ran over so far, and he came late. Just bumped into the kind of progressive looking inch house there. I think they can ride him a bit more positively this time now that they know he kind of stays that, you know, I was an extended 2-6. It's up to 3 miles around Kempton flat track. I think they can give him a bit more of a positive ride this time, send him on a bit earlier. And on that ground, I think he's interesting. Like, he was nice and progressive last year without setting the world alight, but coming off a career best, 3 miles unexposed to the trip, I thought he was interesting. I think the good people at BetUK are of the same mind, because he's quite short with them, but I think you can get 7 or 8 to 1 freely available. You might be able to get it on the day. So he was the one I thought if the ground came up soft.
Lovely, Hurling. Thank you, Ronan. I should also add, the BetUK, they are a little bit shorter on your selection, but they're also an extra place on the race. So it's 4 places on the Coral Handicap Trophy, or the Coral Trophy Show, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Diarmuid, I'm going to come to you next. This particular race, it's pretty tricky. It's Sportsman the Field with our sponsor. Did you manage to find a selection?
Yeah, I like the 11-year-old Captain Nord here. Way too big a price at 18-1. Last year, won off 127 at Ascot. Year before, won off a mark of 127 in this very race with a £3 claimer up on board. Runs this year off 126 with Tristan Durrell taking £3 off. This is his time of the year. He's won this race before. BetUK are a standout 18-1 on him. Way too big a price. Absolutely massive price. But it is just that, you know, this horse has won this race in 2022 off 127 with a £3 claimer. Last year won off 127 again, and he's running here off 126. He just looks terrifically well handicapped, and this does look to be his day. He was actually well back last time, but just couldn't get into that race won by Annual Invictus. But Captain Nord, Darren, yeah, he looks a very decent price at 18-1. The one thing is that price probably won't last, because they are standout now at the moment, I think, BetUK. But 18-1 for a Captain Nord, absolutely cracking better.
Yeah, it certainly won't last if the few lads who are involved in that horse decide that the price is too big. So if you want to take a speculative punt, it might be worth getting involved. Bet early, bet often. And Tanya, to close out the ITV race, and I'm going to come to you for a selection in this race, please.
I certainly agree, Captain Nord. This is Christian Williams' time of the year. This is his day. He's won the Ida with Winning My Wins and Kitty's Light. He's won this with Captain Nord. He actually had Kitty's Light entered in this as alongside Captain Nord, and I was waiting for him to declare Kitty's Light, and I'd have rubbed my hands together, but I was also keeping a close eye on whether he would enter Captain Order, whether that be able to get into the race. It has, and now it is very dangerous off the mark. It is certainly off the price. It is, and the fact that you've got Al Dancer and Il Rodotto in the race, particularly Il Rodotto. I like Il Rodotto. We're stepping up to 3 miles here, but he will fly around. He will fly around and he'll make it a kind of a Captain Ord race, because you can see Captain Ord stalking round when they turn for home and just being in a lovely position should the likes of Il Rodotto and Al Dancer fall back towards him. You've got Unanswered Prayers in the race, which you'll have to watch through your fingers, because he's going to be finishing as well, but sometimes makes that crucial error. My heart said Il Rodotto, even though it's a step up in trip, but my head said, because of the handicap mark, Captain Nord. So I'm going to go with Christian Williams, particularly on the fact that this generally in the last couple of years has been his day, and big day as well for Tristan Darrell, because he's normally riding for Dan Skelton, but it's a wonderful ride here on Captain Nord.
It's another big shout there for Captain Nord from Tanya Stevenson. So 2 selections for a horse at a pretty big price for Racehour listeners. Tanya, I am going to stick with you as we close out the show. Have you got anything else over the weekend, and also your nap, please?
Looking across the weekend, no, nothing really. You've got some good racing going on at Southwell as well. So just a reminder to everyone, you've got the likes of Lord North turning up in the Winter Derby at Southwell. That's a deep race as it happens. But no, my nap, I'm a huge golf fan, so I'm intrigued to see whether the 2015 Phoenix Open winner, a former world #1, does turn up at Kempton. Has to be Give Me 5, because as soon as it won at Warwick, I thought, I was with Harry, I want to know where it goes next. He said the Adonis, here we are. And he's not even favourite. So I'm going to have to go with Give Me 5. It's going to be a track that suits, and hopefully it'll go from the front. And good luck to everyone involved.
Yeah, for sure. I'd echo those sentiments. He's not going to be my nap, but he is certainly high on my agenda this weekend to have a bet. And best of luck to his very high-profile owners. People like that getting involved in racing can only be a positive for the sport. So we invite more of it, and hopefully they might bring a couple more along with them in the next year or two. Ronan, Groome, anything else the weekend and your nap, please?
Yeah, just touch on the Irish action, Darren. Looking forward to see the Bobby Joe tomorrow. Obviously, got the Grand National favourite there in Vanillier and I Am Maximus. Actually, all 4 of the runners there have entries in the Grand National. Just a quick touch on that. Like, I don't think much is made of it after the weights come out for the Grand National. You can obviously win and win well and all that, and you don't have to face a penalty, which is often the best angle into the race. Corrick Rambler was £10 well in last year. Tiger Roll was well in for both of his runs, coming off the cross country. So keep an eye on all the entries that run in the Grand National now and see how they get on. Obviously, Vanillier can get it done in the Bobby Joe tomorrow. He'd be well treated eventually, because you would presume he would get a raise officially from the British handicapper. So keep an eye on that. Also, the 240 Berryhouse Tommy Carberry handicap hurdle, always kind of an interesting heat. Slongiv Galair there for Gordon Elliott and the green and gold. I think he could be a lot better than 1, 2, 3 in future. I think there's could be a big handicap in him, possibly that 3 mile novice handicap hurdle final at the Easter meeting at Fairyhouse. So taking this race along the way wouldn't be would seem a kind of logical thing to do. Boy the Clamor is also in the race with the boy Conor Walsh riding them. Very interesting as well, especially on heavy ground. But I think the Slongiv Galair is potentially a lot better than 1, 3. So just have a look out for him in the market. And for my nap, I'm going to go to the very first race we did, the 115, the Invasion. I just think he could be potentially very well treated on exposed type against a lot of exposed types, and I just thought 10 to 1 was quite generous offering there.
Yeah, big shout there for Sea Invasion and for a couple from this side of the Irish Sea for Ronan Groome. Dermot, finish us out, please. You're usually good for 1 or 2 for the weekend and your nap as well.
Yeah, only one really to follow on Sunday if he runs. A friend of the Racehour, Gavin Coleman, a friend of yourself as well, Darren, obviously. He's one of the shareholders, let's say, of Chantreuse, a horse that I've loved for quite a while, and about time that he got winning. That's a very winnable race that he's in there on Sunday at Naas. So Chantreuse is definitely one to follow over the weekend. And my nap of the weekend, actually, Darren, is the 18-1 shot Captain Nord. I think he's just a ridiculous price.
Very good. And before we do wrap up, Dermot, I'm going to just ask you to enlighten the listeners about the Cheltenham preview night that we have going on next week. Is there a live stream from the Golden, or what exactly is the plan?
Won't be a live stream, no. We always just record it, so it'll be recorded on the 28th and will be out on the 29th. So it's David Jennings, Don McLean, Mikey Fogarty, David Mullins, and Keith Dunhu, and myself. And we will be, discussing every race at the Cheltenham Festival and hopefully find a few winners anyway there.
Yeah, listeners will know I didn't quite make the coach, but anyhow, neither here nor there. Maybe always next year. I'm only joking. That's the next you'll hear from the Racehour is that, and then after that we're right into Cheltenham time the following week. I think we might have Dean Ryan back to run through a couple of the races in the Cheltenham Festival. Not 100% sure about that just yet. But in any case, we will see you next week at the Cheltenham preview night. As Dermot said, it'll be up on YouTube the day after. Until then, gamble responsibly, be lucky, and we'll talk to you soon.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounded Cordon Star into submission.